Luke, you've got 19 playoff games in the last 2 seasons under your belt, and you've got the rings to prove it. But it took until your 6th season in Toronto to actually make the playoffs.
Right.
Do you remember that journey at the time and how difficult it was, and how can you impart that to the young guys today to embrace it? I know Miller's had a lot of playoff experience. You won a cup. Pierce has won a cup. But it's the journey. Do you find in your position here now that maybe you've got to impart some of that wisdom to the young guys about how hard it is to get there?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, like you said earlier on in your career, you're just you watch the playoffs every your season ends early, and all you do is dream about playing in the playoffs and kind of getting that experience and just that opportunity to try to fight for the Stanley Cup. And fortunately, the last couple of years, I've put in a situation where able to achieve a lifelong dream, and going through that, it's you learn a lot. The experience is there's nothing else you can really match to have that experience, and just the emotions, I think, is the big thing that goes the highs and lows throughout playoffs or down the stretch fighting for positioning like we're doing right now. It's just being able to be consistent and continue to fight through adversity. And I mean, there's no sort of script. Some guys come in their career and they win the Stanley Cup in their first year and they don't get a sniff ever since. And then you look at guys, just thinking top of my head, like, when my brother won the cup in St. Louis, like Jay Bomeister, I don't think made the playoffs forever, and then he ended up winning a cup towards the end too. So there's no perfect way or script that guys can get the opportunity, but the experience goes a long way.
Bruce, with the run you're on here, does this team remind you of any team you had previously that made a really nice push in the second half?
Wonder who you're talking about. Well, you know what? My memory in that first year in Washington is, I remember pushing, but never thinking it was gonna happen, because it was my first year at coaching in the NHL, and then it just we won 12 out of the last 13 to get in, and the last 7 straight, and it was just a unique experience. But then the Southwest Division wasn't nearly as tough, but we still had to get a Florida win over Carolina the night before and then beat Florida the last night. But it feels very similar, the amount of games that I will have been here and there, and the situation we came from. I think our record was almost identical when I took over in Washington as is when it was here. So yeah, there's a lot of references and a lot of similarities, I guess is a better word. But I hope and everything works out. You'd like to have the same results.
Did that team have to go through the same emotional journey? Because when you came here, this team was so down in the dumps. They just had no confidence in themselves, and now we see what they're like now. Did that Washington team ever?
Well, I'm sure they did. They hadn't won in 6 years. They were I think 98 was the last time they went to the finals, and then they never made the playoffs after that. And this was 2007. So I think there was an emotional letdown. The only thing is they had Alex to cling on to at that point, and everything was about him. And then all of a sudden we started winning, and it became about everything else.
That year in Washington that you referenced, I asked Luke Schenn about, was there a galvanizing moment when he was in the postseason? He referenced Philly when Boudreau took over, and one night Emery and Holtby got into a scrap, and he said there's just one of those things that everybody rallied around and they squeezed into the playoffs. I mean, they got beat by the Rangers in the first round, but it was something aside. And sometimes it takes that, right? It's not just the goals. It's something that comes from the gut that gets the team.
Yeah, that gets everybody grabbed together and unified. I mean, I think it was maybe 10 days ago that you saw a different reaction around the room. Like there was a happiness and same kind of thing that we'd leave the room and we'd go, hey, man, they're coming together as a group. And so hopefully it's happened, and hopefully I know that they believe in themselves now a lot more than they did, say, a month ago.